Do you know what you get if you feed a Tribble too much?
A fat Tribble.
The trouble with Tribbles was so much fun. But the trouble we had with Tribbles was keeping a straight face. It was just a lot of fun.
Well, I remember when the first story outline came in. At that time, it was entitled A Fuzzy Thing Happened. And it stayed with that title for a while and gave me no end of worry.
These are totally inexplicably little alien animals. And it's based on an idea from an old story called Pigs as Pigs. I don't know if you've ever read it. A British story where somebody sends a couple of guinea pigs by rail somewhere. They get held up because the people won't let it through either as pigs. They have no idea what a guinea pig is. And while they're going through all the paperwork, of course, the guinea pigs are becoming a population explosion.
I gave them a very good home, sir.
Where?
I gave them to the Klingons, sir.
Gave them to the Klingons.
Aye, sir. Before they went into warp, I transported the whole kit and caboodle into the air engine room, where there'll be no Tribble at all.
It was the first and maybe only comedy we did was The Trouble with Tribbles.
How long have you had that thing, Lieutenant?
Since yesterday, Doctor. This morning I found out that she had had babies.
I take them back, a couple of them back on the ship, and the only problem was that they're born pregnant. And we were carrying a shipload of quadriticale wheat from one place to another is the most important thing. And they get into it, and that's their favorite food. And they just multiply like crazy.
I felt that it went too far comedically, and it worried me about believability. I felt it was just a little bit too caricaturish, and it did worry me up until the time the show aired and we got the response, and it seemed like everybody liked it. And so my worst fears got banished, thankfully, and the cast did a wonderful job. Bill was very funny, and everyone was very funny.
One of the funnier things that was happening is they were having a terrible time with when the trap door opened and dumped all the Tribbles on Captain Kirk. Well, the Tribbles, they wanted a pile of them for looking like thousands, but the Tribbles would hit the floor and spread out. So they did everything they could to try to put wads of newspaper around him, and the Tribbles would just hit the newspapers and bounce away. So finally they put him in a box and filled that box with a whole bunch of soft stuff, and when the Tribbles came out, they filled the box and came over, and that was finally what they did. Well, the stagehands, of course, loved it because they got to open a trapdoor and dump 600 Tribbles on William Shatner about 20 times during that day.
There was one scene I remember that they piled the Tribbles up on top of me. Somehow they fell out of an overhead bin or something, and I was above my rear end and probably up to my neck in Tribbles. And then the stagehands all had Tribbles around, and they pelt me with Tribbles. So in the middle of the dialogue, the Tribble would land on me, and I knew that, one of my friends up there in the flies had thrown them. And we had Tribble ball fights afterwards. We'd just throw Tribbles at each other. So the Tribbles was one of those shows that had such humor. It was a good joke. It was a good joke all the way along.
The people would sit there and throw these last little Tribbles, and he couldn't say a thing. He couldn't even look up there and go, nothing. There was nothing he could do. And I'm glad he remembers that story, too, because he finally, of course, enjoyed the humor in it.
Some of the Tribbles, you may be surprised to learn, were capable of motion. They had some sort of a little motor set up in them, and they would kind of tremble and quake. And for the rest of the movement, we had to depend upon the actors to surreptitiously move them around.